Welcome to the Smith & Jones Webinar On Demand series based on our 2023 Annual Trends Report. I am Paul Fahey. I'm Vice President of Smith & Jones. We're glad you're here and thanks for spending time with us, and in particular your interest in today's topic, which are those retail disruptors that many of us are dealing with. This is trend number 4 out of our 7, I think, trends for 2023. This is our 10th annual trends report that we've been issuing, and a lot of, as you know, the content that we really want to make available to all of our friends and colleagues, not just paying clients and folks with budgets necessarily, but we think there's an important amount of work to be done. We want to share the insights that we've gathered from a number of different sources in our career. Today in particular, we'll talk about many familiar and somewhat unfamiliar retailers and the role that they're having as disruptors to traditional healthcare providers, hospitals, health systems, things like that. And we'll take a look at what's coming over the horizon. Many of these communities, many of you are already dealing with these in your own backyard, so they're here at various stages of evolution, but we certainly saw 2023 as being a pretty pivotal year where I think they're going to get a lot more entrenched. And so we'll share some of the things that we think you need to know about what's happening, what's coming our way. And then, as always, a very practical approach with strategies, tactics, things that you can put into use to coexist and perhaps even better compete with these organizations. So because this is being recorded and is available on demand, please keep in mind that this is December 2022 as we are recording this. And with that in mind, as you're watching this in the future, some of the things, the trends, news updates, all the announcements, dollar figures, all the things that we're going to quote throughout this may change. And we certainly welcome a dialogue like our webinars that are live. Please send us an email. You'll see contact information on the page where you're viewing this. So we'd love to hear from you. Quick shout out to my colleagues, Lisa Barone, Katie Source, helping me co-author not only our Under the Influence book, the second edition, but also this Trends Report series and have been over the last several years. Together, the three of us work with a number of different hospitals and health systems around the country. We've been doing this since 2012, all of us at Smith & Jones. And in particular, we've been building on the work that we do with our clients. We've been doing formal surveys. We have a number of one-on-one interviews, focus groups that we've been hosting with industry leaders, healthcare experts, elected officials. We obviously consume a lot of content from organizations like American Hospital Association. We look at what's happening and what people are talking about on social media. And even, I think you'll find one piece of this very interesting. We look at not only Google Trends, but how we can harness some of that data for some campaigns. So a little bit more about that later on. So trend number 4, the competition's heating up. And by that, we don't mean Hospital X versus Hospital Y. Service line competitions for limited consumer base. But there's a major disruption that's happening and want to introduce you to those organizations that are really causing this disruption. So what's the situation? It's happening on a lot of levels and through a lot of different evolutions and with retailers especially. We'll talk about these big box retailers and frankly some of the major moves that they are making within this space. There are some big battles for not only first place as Amazon's going head-to-head against Walmart to see who's going to be one of the dominant players, but not to overlook what's happening within that pharmacy tier of Walgreens, Rite Aid, CVS, a number of organizations that are not only making acquisitions, they're expanding their services beyond just primary or pharmacy care into things like primary care diagnostics, dental, mental health, telehealth, a lot more. And some even relatively surprising players like Dollar General that are getting into things as well. All these organizations, we see having a significant impact on healthcare, certainly as they have the ability to and already are harnessing consumer relationships. So let's talk about some of those big box players first and some of the big moves. Let's get us all on the same page and get a sense of what's ahead. And for that, Dave, why don't we roll this first video? It's from the Young Turks, an online sort of media organization. And they spent a couple minutes talking about, not only what Amazon's doing, but in particular their recent move to buy One Medical.
The healthcare system in America, as everyone knows, is a bit of a mess. We've got accessibility issues, we got cost issues, that's for sure. So Amazon says they're here to save the day. Isn't that wonderful? What they're gonna do is they're looking to buy One Medical, or acquiring One Medical. That's a chain of primary care clinics, and they have some characteristics that are appealing to Amazon. Let's go to some of those details about first what Amazon wants to do. They're reinventing the system. So healthcare has been tantalizing to Amazon executives who believe it's an immense market, rife with inefficiencies and generally lacking the kind of customer-focused approach that Amazon tries to take with its businesses. Very nice. We think healthcare is high on the list of experiences that need reinvention, is what Neil Lindsay, who's the Senior Vice President of Amazon Health Services, said. Mr. Lindsay ticked off some of the annoyances of modern healthcare: booking appointments, sitting in waiting rooms, traveling to a pharmacy, even finding a parking spot. I think he missed a couple of those other frustrations with the healthcare system, but continue on anyway. Amazon's notion of seeing a provider could include more virtual or online care, which healthcare companies like One Medical, which they're acquiring, and Kaiser Permanente are already doing. So specifically to One Medical.
So there's a lot there that rings true. There's a fair amount to unpack. I mean, first, Amazon is right. The healthcare industry definitely needs to be reinvented. You know, we've had a lot of challenges over the last couple of years that have been accelerated by the pandemic. But even before that, this has been an industry that has struggled to innovate and really redefine itself. There's no national model by which that care is delivered that can be reinvented. So there are things that are happening at the hospital system level, at the state level, at the federal level. And to the point of this article, there's a lot of consumer frustrations, and we'll talk a little bit even about consumer empowerment, especially as it relates to some of the financial aspects of it. But the word that really resonated with me in this last piece was that the healthcare experience needs to be reinvented. And if you've been attending a lot of our webinars, you know that we defined patient experiences as that foundation for the brand. How you're treated, the timely access to appointments, the level of trust that people have for your organizations, all of that shapes the experience, and it is largely because it's a service-based delivery. That's what shapes the brand perception. So is this a recent development? I mean, this article came out, I think this news clip came out within the last few months, but is this something that we've been dealing with pretty recently? Actually, no, it's been something that, and let's hear from Sam Walton, 30 years ago.
Health benefits, the hospitals. We've got to get the hospitals and doctors in line. We've got to get those charges under control. I made it a point to find out every time I had something done and get it done all over the darn country. I'm embarrassed. Nobody wants to tell me how much it's going to cost. When I crawl to one of the X-ray machines or get something done, I did yesterday, and they'll just give you an example. Here at base, I went in this MRI machine, and I said, as I was going in, I said, how much is this going to cost me? And the guy that kind of started me running one of these mobile machines. He runs one of the big still. He runs one of Rogers and somewhere else. Can you hear me back there all right? I don't want to get too hoarse, but he said, well, I know what we charge. I said, well, I want to know what the hospital as well as you folks charge. So I finally got it out of him. Well, there's one procedure I was going to have. He charges $500. And it took about 25 minutes. Then he says the hospital adds $250 to it. And when he got me through, he said, this is what you're going to die about. No, I didn't say that. I knew I would die. But he said, this is what's going to kill you. He said, this brown medicine I'm squirting in your veins costs $78. We charge $78 for it. The hospital charges $255 on top of that. That meant my 40 minutes in under that thing cost me about $1,000. And it meant that the hospital didn't do a thing to get them into town and got half the money. Now, what it means is, that these people are skinning us alive, not just here in Bentonville. And they're doing it spite of the they're charging us 5 to 6 times what they ought to charge us. Not that much, but more. So we need to work on a program where we've got hospitals and doctors and workers' comp and our pharmacies gaining and saving our customers money and our employees money. And we haven't even started to do that. And if we don't get it done this year, I'm going to get real upset. I'm real upset.
Well, that was Sam Walton, 1991. He didn't get it done that year. I'm sure he was probably pretty upset. But if you think of Walmart and you think of their brand, low prices, it's what they're known for. It's the message, the tagline that's been drilled into all of us. That conversation's being touted as one of the key drivers. This is what set Walmart from going down this pathway. Yes, they provided a number of different products and different product departments, but as Sam Walton, the essence of what he's talking about here is price transparency. And that, I think, is what's ringing especially true recently. And one of the accelerators to this, not only just on Walmart's end, but the reason that consumers are embracing this is because of this desire for an increased price transparency. With the advent of high deductible plans, consumers are now more than ever empowered to ask themselves, what's this going to actually cost me? It's no longer, my insurance will take care of it. I don't really care. I'm not even thinking about it. But now that it's coming out of the pockets of consumers, this is where Walmart is making and has always made a connection with consumers itself. And so now fast forward 30 years later, 31 years later, and this is what the analysts are saying about it.
Tell me about what they've done now in the past couple months, past couple years, really, that makes you even more relatively bullish on Walmart.
Yeah, so besides being a scale leader and/or winner in this growing multi-channel market, they're starting to knock on the door of healthcare, and we've talked about the symbiosis of retail and healthcare for a couple of years. The idea being, is there ways to lower costs of healthcare to both customers and even employees? Right, Walmart is one of the largest employers in the world. And so we've seen some steps towards this, and if you go back to Walmart's heritage, it was, I think, March of 1991 where Sam Walton said, we want to bring more transparency to healthcare costs, and I think the underlying message there was we want to lower costs to consumers. And so they seem to be taking some steps in the healthcare world, and we think there's a lot of synergy between that and what they're trying to do in the retail world.
So talk to me about that transition as well into the retail world, because they're looking at a membership program similar to what would be Amazon Prime, a subscription service to make some of those options free to really take on Amazon Prime. What do you make of that? What announcements are you expecting from that?
Yeah, so it's mostly speculation, but the speculation is that they're going to launch a membership program that would be similar to what Prime looks like today. I don't think it's going to shock anyone. It should be a natural extension of Walmart's progress in multi-channel over time. They launched an unlimited delivery membership program last year in the U.S., and I think this is another version of that with added features. But the idea is for Walmart to be the large-scale player that it is, to not have membership data to create more ways to find loyalty with a customer, to grow wallet share. I think it's something that's pretty necessary and almost inevitable for Walmart's long-term strategy to play out.
And a lot to unpack there. I know that the last few clips have talked about Walmart. We could just as easily, and in this case, referencing Amazon, looking at those major retailers. But the point being made here is that retail healthcare symbiosis is something that's really accelerating. But a lot of what I'm hearing here, and perhaps you as well, is that this is driven by price transparency, lower cost, ultimately, converts to profits, and even the phrase in their wallet share. And I think that set of motivators is really where there's opportunity area for the traditional hospital and health system brands. And we'll talk about that a little bit more as we go through, but I think it's that, why are you stepping into this space and how much room will most consumers give to these retailers themselves? So yeah, we see that happening at the largest scale. We've always been seeing this within Walgreens, within CVS, the mergers that they've got, Walgreens now partnering with Village Medical, offering primary care services. So we're going out of, the traditional pharmacies are selling more than pills and products and providing services. And these larger retailers are stepping into, and if you caught the sign that was in that last clip, there's a number of different services that are being offered. Diagnostics, primary care services, x-ray, dental, mental health, all of this on telehealth. And it's really, really heating up. And again, we see this, the reason we've included this in our trends report for 2023 is that we see this being a really major, factor. We think 2023 is going to be the year where they really start to gain a lot of traction. Economy being what it is, we'll talk about that in a second. Pandemic has somewhat settled down. We're no longer in lockdown. People are going back to normal. We're traveling, we're dining out at restaurants, et cetera. And so this could be the year for them to make some of those more significant moves. Even over the last several quarters, as I mentioned, this is being recorded in December 2022. And as I look back on the last few months, CVS spent $8 billion to acquire Signify Health. And this is a network of home health delivery, 10,000 clinicians. A day later, Walmart inked a 10-year agreement with one of the largest health insurers, United Health Group. Amazon bought primary care company One Medical in early August, as you saw in that earlier clip, for $3.9 billion. And when you look at the trillion-dollar size of the healthcare industry, these may seem, and these frankly are, pretty significant numbers. $8 billion for this acquisition, $3.9 billion for that acquisition. The really interesting thing is that's an extremely insignificant number compared to the percentage of wallet share or market share that these organizations hope to capture. But what's really remarkable is that they are acquiring companies at the rate that most hospitals and large health systems are losing money. They're extremely well capitalized. They're looking at these acquisitions as accelerators, and they're going to help them get up to speed a lot faster in the marketplace. So yeah, that competition is fierce. And as I said before, even referencing Dollar General, it's often unrecognizable. As you heard in perhaps that earlier clip, these are organizations that are very good at bringing innovation into a lot of different areas. They're good at multi-channel, they have bricks and mortar, they have web, they have apps, there's home delivery options. They have this desire to bring that innovation, increasing access and care, both in the home through electronic delivery, home delivery, clinics, retail locations. But to my earlier point in the last slide, they're incredibly well funded. These modest acquisitions that they're making equal the annual losses for many of the hospitals. They can afford to play the long game, especially against our organizations. I mean, look, I can think of very, very few hospitals, a very small percentage that are actually doing well financially, have strong endowments, good balance sheets. Many of us are struggling just to keep our head above water, and many of us are dealing with annual losses. We can't afford to play the long game. We don't have the momentum that these retailers have, and nor are we as tech savvy as they are. The innovations it would take for us to embrace consumer loyalty programs, websites, apps, et cetera. And at the end of the day, they understand consumers. They're good at cross-selling services, cross-selling products. They understand how to build in loyalty programs and how to make those connections on a product level much deeper than we do very often on a service level. There's a strong prediction that they'll do quite well in on-demand telehealth. Again, these are channels that are in most cases the cornerstone of their business and would extend itself very well into these areas as well. So that's a look at what's coming up on the horizon, or again, for many of our communities, what's already happening right in our own backyards. So this is where it gets interesting. What do consumers think about this so far? What's that level of, how far are they willing to let that, Amazon, Walmart, those pharmacy brands, and even as I mentioned before, Dollar General, how far will consumers let them take this? Let's watch this next clip.
Not going to lie, when I first saw that Walmart was going to be offering healthcare services, I was concerned and just a little bit scared. Because when we usually think about Walmart, we typically think of people with their crazy shenanigans, like these guys that were doing like Walmart wrestling. on social media, like joking about stealing at Walmart.
Yeah, it's okay, it's okay to steal from Walmart.
That one kid that was yodeling in Walmart last year. All that being said, despite its image problems and branding issues, Walmart is a behemoth of a company, averaging 150 million customers nationwide weekly. And it's one of the only retailers that's been able to withstand the Amazon retail takeover. So despite all of the crap that people give Walmart on social media, a lot of people still shop there. Walmart is still near and dear to the...
Yeah, it is near and dear to the hearts of consumers. Low prices, their products are not necessarily associated with high quality. And you saw the, sort of antics and the memes or whatever. And again, I don't mean for this entire webinar to be about Walmart necessarily. I could just as easily be talking about Amazon, except Amazon wasn't born out of the bricks and mortar model, And I think as Amazon has a greater diversity of products, they have less retail presence. And I think that's where these two giants are going head to head for competition for how these services can best be delivered. But that's my point. These two giants are going head to head, almost with no consideration for the hospitals and health systems that are already entrenched within this. To this blogger's point, Walmart has 150 million. I'm sure Amazon has at least the same, if not more, millions. I mean, you're talking about half the population of the United States are actively purchasing, within one or both of these organizations, these companies every day or every week. And that's significant. I think that's part of the reason they feel entitled to step into this space. And for all the points we've described before, this is what's coming. But I think it's this doubt and skepticism that shares or rather creates this opportunity area for hospital and health system brands. So let's talk about some of the strategies. Now that we have a sense of what's coming over the horizon, or in some cases, as I've said, what's already here, how can we deal with this? Yes, the consumers may be skeptical, but they do want transparency, they do want low prices, and that's one of the themes of this and what's driving this. The critics do point to past failures that these companies can't accomplish in healthcare, for all of its intricacies. What they've done so successfully in retail. There's an article that quoted is 4 times a charm for Walmart Health. And others have taken, hard jabs at Amazon's recent efforts, citing that Haven, this nonprofit healthcare venture, and Amazon folded within a few years. So while they're making some pretty large acquisitions, they're making some pretty large movements, they're also making some pretty large mistakes, and having some difficulty gaining some of that traction. And I think what's interesting here, and if you were attending our last webinar about branding and about the role of healthcare brands within our business models, our hospital and health system models, you've heard us say that trust is that foundation. What consumers think of you, and I believe, no matter what your hospital brand is, you've got some established presence in your community, and you're one of those trusted sort of anchor tenants, in your community, like the colleges, like your core community or state government. These are the pillars that people think about within society and hold it in a level of high regard. I think there's a level of sincerity and a level of history that you have on your side. Many of your hospitals have leaders that are or were MDs, that have their MPH. These are people that have built their career on caring for other people, not retail wallet share. And I think there's an opportunity there. So you do have this local advantage. Let's talk about some of the strategies that we see and that we talk about in our trends report. You do have this local advantage. You do have this ability to cast a little bit of doubt and fear against these retailers, whether it's at the CVS, Walgreens, Rite Aid, sort of pharmacy level, if it's these larger retailers. You do have that home field advantage. You are neighbors taking care of neighbors, and especially for you rural organizations, you may be the biggest employer in your county even, larger than the Walmarts, and I think with a level of sincerity and authenticity that they don't. Walmart Amazon, they're too big to localize those brands. And I think as a result, they're going to go out with ad campaigns that feel very generic, stock, very cliche. They're going to use the kind of buzzwords. But I think they're going to miss the opportunity to develop the authentic local brands that are yours, as well as that sense of local authority. In addition to your service lines, you also have a lot of community health initiatives. You are deeply entrenched in the data from your community. You're developing new programs for your community, and all of it driven by a goal of keeping your community healthy. That community-based program, that local authority, those local sponsorships, all of that is what's going to roll up into those experiences that we talked about before, and all fuel the quality of your brand. Your brand matters. I say this not because we're marketers and it's just what we think about very often, but it is the most important asset that's in your marketing toolbox. The foundation of that is the level of trust that you've built up. And I don't believe that any of these organizations have earned quite that level, and it would take them significant investments to reach into that space that you already own. Now, one of the other strategies that people are talking about quite often is, yes, they're coming. They're going to be well-funded, and they're going to do a lot of things very well, frankly. They understand consumer behavior perhaps better than we do. They have the resources to start innovating these programs. So don't feel as though, and don't misinterpret this message to mean that you've got to go head-to-head against them. You know, when they start to make moves into your community, this is the time for you to go to your board, to talk to your trustees and say, hey, let's be honest with ourselves. What is it that we do really, really well? And maybe there's an opportunity for us to focus on those things that we do really well that we know that they can't do, but to partner with those organizations when they come in. Let them provide a certain level of service. I doubt that they're going to go past the urgent care level, although they're starting to talk about lab work and diagnostics, et cetera. Those pathways, I think, could be, as strong as any other community pathways, whether you're higher ed to healthcare or, community college to 4-year pathways. All of those programs, I think, are up for grabs, and something that, you should be seriously considering as these organizations enter your market. And keep in mind also, this competition that we've been talking about is not just for patients. One of the other impacts, and this comes at the worst possible time, is the competition for employees themselves. Let's roll this other video.
My name's Kunal Gupta, and I'm a physician here at Walmart Health.
My name is Catherine Chiari. I'm a nurse practitioner.
My name is Britt Miller. I'm a care host.
I'm Charlotte. I'm a nurse practitioner here at Walmart.
When I came to Walmart Health, I felt right at home.
I became a nurse practitioner because I love caring about people. I come here every day feeling empowered to provide excellent quality of care to my patients.
Here at Walmart Health, we never want to compromise quality. We're able to provide on-the-spot care for patients, being able to get results pretty much instantly.
When I come to work every day, I know I'm going to be touching people's lives. I know I'm going to be helping people.
One of the things I've definitely been able to enjoy is that work-life balance.
I feel like the kind of care that I give here is what I've always wanted to do.
If you're looking for a great job where you get that work-life balance and rewarding experience, you should really come join us at Walmart Health.
So, okay, recruitment video from one of the big box retailers. And sorry for the imbalance, Walmart, I don't mean to pick on you, versus Amazon versus CVS, et cetera. Yours were just the videos that I could find quite easily on YouTube. But the point is, they're also going to be growing their workforce. And it's going to happen from the MD down to the nurse practitioner to what's even interesting, they call them care hosts. We might call them patient navigators or patient advocates. But the point is they get that experience. They understand that certainly the role that service providers play within a retail experience, and it'll be interesting to see how that plays out in a healthcare experience as well. But they're going to be competing against us for staffing as well. And again, this couldn't come at a worse time, as you've heard us say, and as part of our trends report itself. So, again, quickly, some of the strategies and tactics, and we've talked about these on our annual trends report. make sure you've got a firm grasp on the differentiators for your organization. That Walmart recruitment commercial felt pretty generic, and it almost felt pretty cliche. There was a lot of sterility. It did feel like what a retail environment would look like if they tried to design an exam room. But what are the true differentiators? What attracts and retains the really quality individuals within your organization? Now that you've got those, how can you build on that? How can you really enhance and really tell that story? You've heard us talk about not only taking those ads that you're developing, those ads that speak to those differentiators, reaching commuters, geo-poaching. They'll probably start doing it to you. You should be doing it to your competitors, but using geo-fencing tools to draw invisible lines around the hospital campuses for your competitors to look at attracting their employees first. And even finding the right time of day, the right day of week, the right months out of the year to have those same stories. You've heard us talk about Chris Ingram's 2014 article in the Washington Post, where he talks about the Google Misery Index and tracking those key phrases when we're most depressed, anxious, and stressed, and thinking and applying that toward recruitment campaigns itself. So when do you hate your job the most? When you're commuting and when you're on your way to your shift earlier in the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever it is. You probably can tolerate it a little bit, and you may not be as receptive to messages on your way home at the end of the week itself. And so want to revisit some of the tips that we've offered in an earlier webinar for just a tactical approach toward recruitment. But I think back to the core point of this webinar, having that firm grasp on what those differentiators are, really letting your people shine is going to be core to that. We'll explore that in one of the future webinars in our series. So thank you for spending a few minutes with us. Again, wanted to sensitize us to what is coming, wanted to start to explore some of those basic strategies, not only for strengthening your brand, using that as an effective tool against these organizations where possible, but don't be afraid to partner with them as you're going through this whole process. And also reminding ourselves that they're also going to be competing not just for patients, but for personnel. We're going to be constantly watching what they're doing. We're going to be sharing updates on future e-blasts, blogs, things like that. We'll share a lot of this, and please, if you haven't signed up yet, join our email and social media alerts. We'll always be putting out new content, especially if we sort of see regional moves and things happening in different parts of the United States, but sharing a lot of practical, actionable strategies, tips, etc. So please, let's keep in touch. If you haven't subscribed yet to our email, if you don't follow us on social media, do so. We'd love to stay there. We won't spam you. We hate spam too. But hope to be in touch and with future webinars, with future strategies and tactics to help your organization grow. So thank you for joining us. Again, that was strategy number 4 as part of our annual trends report, looking at sort of the big competition that's coming over the horizon. Thanks for spending time with us.